So guys, in front of us today is the day 1 patch notes. And yes, the day 1 patch is live today on the 20th. It was stated that it was going to come out on the 22nd. They actually pushed it 2 days ahead of time. Now, I'm pretty sure all of these fixes are now in place. So let's go over them. First up, high-level fixes. They're decreased loading times for older disk drives, fixed many infinite loading screens, fixed multiple challenges not tracking properly. A number of issues have been fixed that were causing players to disconnect or crash. Weapons and gear now have a number present for modifiers. So there was like some weapons and gears that didn't have any numbers. You could tell that it was like some sort of code there instead, and it wasn't actually representing what type of buff you were actually receiving. The decreased loading times though there is great, especially for those that don't have their stuff, say on an SSD, and the infinite loading screens, thank God they got that fix as well. Now moving on to general fixes and improvements. Loot reveal and expedition summary now correctly played during the end of the expedition screen. I guess some people were having an issue with that not correctly playing. I mainly just skip it for the most part. The gather party mechanic has been made more lenient in a number of situations. At the end of the expedition screen, players will no longer get stuck on recording victories or skipping all. Ooh, sounds like a lot of bugs there on that ending screen there. I never ran into bugs with that one. Game no longer hangs in Javelin menu when unlocking the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th Javelin. During the mission What Freelancers Do, dying after killing Junk Maw and freeing Arcanus leaves you unable to progress. This has been fixed. Thank God, man. I've been getting hung up on so many missions, especially in quick play. Challenges now unlocked for players at the correct levels. Fix some camera issues during cutscenes. I actually ran into one of those issues. It was pretty funny. I was like in my own face. Legendary contracts can now be accepted from Social Hub Contract Board. Thank you. What this will allow you to do, guys, is to just go straight to the Social Hub without you actually physically running to each of those factions to pick up those contracts. Some enemies have had their shield values decrease. Oh, wow. Loot now properly drops for players who are down. So yeah, there was previously an issue where if you were down, especially when you killed the final boss, you wouldn't receive any loot. The texture quality on the NPC Prospero has been improved. Final boss of Strongholds now drop loot instead of only being shown on the end of the expedition screen. Excellent. We'll actually be able to physically see the loot. Fix the timeouts on echoes and relics to prevent griefing and to handle disconnections properly. Players can no longer fall through the floor during the 3rd trial in the Fortress of Dawn. Holy hell. I'm just now like finding out about these bugs by reading this. Completing the tutorial expedition will now show the correct ranger appearance. After disconnecting, rejoining an expedition will now place you back into a squad if you were in one previously. Now, I've disconnected a couple of times, and I want to say I've been actually reconnected to my squad majority of the time. There's like maybe one time that it wouldn't let me connect back, but that's good that they fixed that. Corrected an issue where players could not interact with each other in the launch bay in certain circumstances. Corrected an issue during the mission Bad Deal where outlaws won't spawn, blocking progress. The start of the expedition screen has been improved. Okay, I'm excited to see what that looks like. Address a variety of situations where killing enemies does not properly progress world events. Opening a chest now increments Tomb of Legionnaire progress for all squad members present. Thank you. Originally, guys, you had to physically be the one to open the chest. Now, when one person in the squad opens a chest, everyone will receive credit for this. Wonderful. Scar snipers can no longer shoot through the storm shield. That was pretty funny. Yeah, they could shoot straight through a storm shield. Corrected an issue where players would get stuck on the end of an expedition screen in some situations. Players will no longer get disconnected if joining the Finding Old Friends mission while the cinematic is playing. Address a number of situations where players can get stuck on the environment in the launch bay. Increase the damage of electric status effect. Ooh, I actually just got a Masterwork Voltaic. I'm interested to see how much that increase in damage is actually going to be there. Correcting an issue where the Shield of Dawn could be crafted with less materials than intended in some situations. I can't remember exactly what you could do there, guys, but I want to say the Shield of Dawn could be crafted for like 10% of its required materials. Looks like they fixed that though. The Platinum Mission feat now grants completion as intended. Status effects can more reliably be applied to Titans. Dude, thank God. I didn't know if that was like an effect of Titans, like they were just impervious to status effects. But good to see that that's not actually the case. Fixed loading animation on marksman rifles. I think there was a few times like my hand like went through the gun and did something funky. I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but hey, good stuff. Players can now access the vault from the forge. Hey! Swimming into jellyfish underwater no longer leaves a visual effect stuck on players. Oh dude, I didn't ever get to see that. What a shame. Idle animations will no longer sync up over time in the launch bay. Halleck is no longer dual-wielding canes in the epilogue scene. I want to see that. I never got to see that. Corrected an issue where players could not interact with each other in the launch bay in certain circumstances. I think they just said that. Fixed an issue that could cause players in the launch bay to have identical emotes and be unable to use them. What? Interceptor melee ability animations will no longer stretch out in certain situations. Not sure what that even means, but okay. Correcting an issue where the default ranger appearance doesn't preview in the forge in some situations. All animations now play as intended in the forge. Players can now enter the Tomb of Gwaines. I think that's how we say that. Gwaines, while in a party. The default Javelin wear state has been changed from dirty to old. Okay. Send no loyalty to text no longer incorrectly states that it would lead to a larger vault. Oh man, what a rip. I never saw that. Somebody got debated though. Picking up ammo from the ground now properly gives you 30% of that ammo back into both the current magazine and the maximum spare ammo. So it's only supposed to give us 30% of our ammo back? I'm not even sure how much I get back. I thought we get full ammo back every time. Okay. Fixed a bug where some global Javelin icons inscription bonuses were not being properly applied to the Javelin and other gear or weapons. Dude, it's so hard to test too, man. Like what exactly, like total percentages that we're getting. Like I wish we had an actual stat page that showed everything that is being applied to our Javelin. But I guess it's just me. Everyone else seems to be okay with the current system. Fix some issues that could cause the armor pip count to break and not display properly. Okay. Moving on. Strongholds. Fixed an issue that would cause a Stronghold server crash after defeating the last boss. Dude, nothing is more demoralizing than spending like 30 minutes killing something to just be kicked. Temple of Scar. Players can no longer get stuck in the mine tunnel in the explosives room. Okay. Temple of Scar. Player can no longer be blocked from entering the explosives room due to fog wall. Okay. Fix Tyrant Mine so people that join the Stronghold in progress do not end up locked away from their team. Adjusted lightning and Tyrant Mine underwater section to make it easier to navigate the exit. The Swarm Tyrant will no longer get stuck in the side cave entrances in some situations. Corrected an issue where players would spawn into different areas of the Tyrant Mine in certain situations. Implemented more safeguards to stop players from going AFK in Strongholds. Okay. I guess people were going AFK. I wondered when that was actually going to happen, especially for things like reputation. At some point, someone's going to get a macro together, but hopefully they'll have things in place to safeguard against that. Moving on to challenges. Only Masterwork items can now be used to progress Masterwork challenges as intended. Yes, there was some bugs with that. Actually, from what I saw, was things were actually being counted toward those Masterwork challenges that had no affiliation to that actual Masterwork. Correcting an issue where some challenges track progress simultaneously instead of incrementally. As intended, Blast Missile 1 and then Blast Missile 2 instead of both incrementing at the same time. Oh, okay. I guess they're supposed to both be moving up at the same time. All right, well, just know that should be easier to complete those challenges. Moving on, we're looking at gear and weapons. Oh, this one's a long one. After having first pilot unlock suit after tutorials, creating a new pilot and going to the forge no longer causes loading screen hang. Ice damage bonuses are now correctly applied on ice gear. I wonder what the deal was before. Suit-wide bonuses from inscriptions are now functioning properly. Players can no longer salvage equipped items. Javelin-specific gear and or weapons are no longer able to be used on javelins they aren't intended for. I didn't even know that was a thing. Can an interceptor even pick up an autocannon? Y'all know y'all's hands are too small, man. Don't even try. Corrected an issue where in some circumstances Masterwork components do not have any inscriptions. The Endless Siege Masterwork autocannon no longer displays a damage increase of 0% in its tooltip. Oh wow, I thought that was like a legit thing. It was like you have an increase in magazine size, but you get nothing for damage, bud. Suit-wide specific weapon ammo bonuses coming from the infusions are now correctly applied. A network error message no longer appears when opening an item chest in the second tutorial. Colossus shoulder gear will now share the appearance of the rest of the Javelin as intended. Deadeye has increased spare ammo from 10 to now 20. Cloudburst has been increased damage from 16.3 to now 21. Torrent has also got an increase in damage from 22.2 to 28.6. Lightning Strike's pre-visualization will now accurately depict that the explosion snaps to the ground. Ranger, Infernal Grenade's base damage has now been increased from 130 to 175. Interceptor, Cryoglaive has a base damage increase from 20 to 50. Storm, Living Flame base damage has now increased from 50 to 60. Storm, Glacial Beam base damage has now been decreased from 150 to 120. Storm, Arc Burst secondary damage increased from 100 to 150. And Ranger, Pulse Blast base damage increased from 225 to 300. And now deals extra damage to shields. Previously only did extra damage to armor. Alright. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Is that actually worse than before? It did previous extra damage to armor combatants. Now it only does it to shields? I don't know. Ranger, Blast Missile now properly scales up in damage as the item level increases. Interceptor, melee attacks now have some minor resistance penetration. Oh wow, really? So they can't just keep spamming melees. Large area of effect abilities will better register multi-kill activities for challenges and medals. Spark Dash functionality has been significantly improved when the target enemy is at a different height, above or below the interceptor. All right, I'm looking at all of this. I see nothing for Colossus. There's like one thing in here for Colossus. It's just to make sure that our shoulder is matching the rest of our body. Now, several gear pieces that had missing primer or detonator icons have been fixed. Thank God. I have been so confused, man. So for the Interceptor, we have Tempest Strike, which now has a detonator icon, Spark Dash, which also has a detonator icon, Venom Spray, and Detonated Strike, which now both have a primer icon. Moving on to Colossus now, Lightning Coil has a detonator icon now. Previously, it actually had text that showed you, or at least told you, that you can detonate combos. Shot Coil and Flamethrower both now have primer icons. Okay, that's great. For some of you guys that are just now going to be getting into Anthem, you won't run into the confusion that we've run into for the past week. And they go on to say that several improvements have been made to ensure gear use on PC prioritizes turning the Javelin toward the reticle when used rather than casting in front of the Javelin's current direction. So I believe that's talking about the aiming of our weapon. Sometimes it just turns toward the reticle rather than turning toward the front of the Javelin's current direction. And that is for gear use. Now moving on to Javelins. The Colossus Javelin is now able to activate its shield more quickly after using an ability or firing a weapon. There was a small delay. I honestly thought that was just part of it, but that's good, especially when you just need to have your shield up immediately to block some damage. The Storm Javelin now reacts to getting hit when its shield are up. I wonder how it reacts. Fixed an exploit that allows the Storm Ultimate attack to be used more times than intended. We had a glitch back in Destiny called the Nova Bomb glitch. I want to say the exact process that was used for Nova Bomb was used here with the Storm's Ultimate. The Colossus Exo can now shield and revive at the same time. Now, previously, this could be done. You just had to start reviving first and then open your shield up. Now, you'll be able to just run up to your teammate with your shield out and start reviving them. Good stuff. Interceptor Combo Aura has been increased in power and now has damage over time component. Hot damn. Man, Interceptors get all the good stuff around here. Ranger Melee now has a cooldown when striking in the air. The Target Beacon ability now correctly seats targets. Spark Dash and Venom Spray now target based on the player's cursor instead of the character's facing. This should also improve the travel path of Spark Dash. Okay. The Colossus will no longer be knocked out of the sky in some situations when the attack is blocked by their shield. Yeah, I had situations like that. It mainly would occur whenever my shield got brought down to 0 health, right? Which then resulted in me kind of getting pushed out of the sky. Now, next up is combo and status effects. Combo indicator icons above creatures now are correctly removed when detonated. Thank you. This caused some confusion. I honestly just got into this process where I just waited like a full 5 seconds before starting to combo again. You know what I mean? When a storm detonates an electric status effect, the chain electric effect now correctly deals damage. Okay. Combo damage now penetrates resistances. All right, I just like the fact that combo indicator icons above creatures will now be removed when detonated. That is excellent. Now, crafting. Non-masterwork materials purchased from crafting store now show as the proper rarity instead of incorrectly showing as a masterwork. A number of Javelin components that had different icons for the recipes and the actual items are now the same. The Battlecry gear recipe now has the correct descriptions. It actually gave the correct description after you crafted, but during the crafting process, yes, it gave you the wrong description. Fix spark beam gear having the wrong description when being crafted. Crafting recipes are now sorted alphabetically. The items in the crafting store are now sorted by type to be clear. All right, controls. Additional mouse and keyboard control improvements have been made. I'm looking forward to seeing what those improvements are. I want to say that the game plays really good on controller. Mouse and keyboard, yeah, it's a little janky. All right, UI. Oh my God, this is a pretty long one. Whew. Some conversations were not popping up the reputation points post-conversation completion. This has now been fixed. The squad screen now displays the correct information for each player. Okay. Fix a number of issues where subtitles will no longer get stuck on the screen after dialogue has finished as often. Settings should no longer reset upon exiting and restarting the game on Xbox One. Motion blur can now correctly be turned off. The electric status effect now shows scale damage properly. An option has been added to hide the squad member's HUD. Oh yes! Get them beautiful screenies, man. The edge of the compass will now pulse to indicate enemy locations. A notification has been added in Fort Tarsis if a player's vault is at the cap of 250 items. On the repair the Strider step, a cry for help. The search radar has been adjusted to correctly lead the player to all 4 tools. Primer and detonator icons have been added to all intercepted gear. Corrected a user interface issue where a player's ultimate would show as available when it isn't. Oh my God, how many times have you died from that? I've died so many times thinking I had my ultimate to hit my button and nothing happened. Toggling the HDR option now properly prompts the apply changes button. Player banners should now display correctly. Camera shake slider has been added to the setting menu. I really want to see what that's about. Supposedly we can actually decrease the camera shake, especially for things like your ultimates on something like Colossus, where your entire screen is shaking pretty violently. Players may now track 10 challenges instead of 5. I didn't even know we could track them. What? This is news to me, boys. I'm gonna have to figure this one out. An option to adjust screen boundaries on consoles has now been added. Changing a player banner through the banner menu now properly saves the selection. Health, cooldowns, and key bindings now light up on support keyboards. Players will now receive more clear messaging when a squad is disbanded or are kicked from a squad. Squad leaders will no longer always show as ready. The icon for players in a down state will no longer appear in cutscenes. Cipher annotations will now appear for more than one player if they are looking at it simultaneously. Remove mentions of respawning on the player UI when they die in restricted respawn area. The player banner now updates immediately when updated from the squad screen. Fix a number of situations where a combo will trigger but no combo floating text appears. Oh my God, thank you. Press escape to pass a notification screen no longer opens up in-game menus. Quick chat messages will no longer appear from an ignored player. Removed a message from the mailbox which incorrectly stated that the message will be removed after 3 days. A number of inscription icons have been updated to properly reflect whether they are Javelin specific or not. Corrected an issue where players cannot change loadout names on PC. Players no longer need to exit and re-enter the Forge for loadout names to update. The on-screen VoIP indicator, which shows a player speaking, will no longer be active if that player is muted. All right, I think the only thing I didn't see on this entire list, did they mention anything about the audio bug being fixed? Please, for the love of God, tell me that the audio bug is fixed. Guys, that is your patch notes right now. Those are your day 1 patch notes. They rolled out today. They are live right now on the 20th. I'm about to jump into Anthem, start streaming right now to see what it's all about. So fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.